was the week after Christmas, and I was house sitting for my aunt and uncle. They have a big house near the edge of the county, surrounded by woods. I wouldn't say it's in the middle of nowhere, but the closest neighbor is about a quarter mile down the road. My aunt and uncle had gone to see my cousins in Florida for 2 weeks, and they asked if I could stay there to keep the pipes from freezing and take care of their old dog, Bear. I thought, why not? It was easy money. The first few days were fine. It was just me and the dog watching a lot of Netflix. A snowstorm was forecast on December 28th, but I didn't care. The house was solid, I had lots of food and my 4-wheel drive truck. The storm came, and I watched it from the window. The snow was heavy, and it was very windy. I could barely see anything outside. I felt a chill that wasn't from the draft, and closed the blinds. I thought I was probably just being jumpy because I was alone in a big house. The storm didn't stop all night, and finally calmed down early in the morning. When I woke up, it was very quiet, and outside I could see about 2 feet of snow had settled. It looked just like a postcard. I made coffee, let Bear out into the fenced backyard, and started scrolling on my phone. Everything was normal and kind of boring. I decided to clear the snow from the driveway. I slowly walked through the deep snow to get the snowblower that my uncle kept in the detached garage around the side of the house. I started it up, and the noise from the snowblower felt like it was the only sound in the world. It was actually quite peaceful. I finished the driveway and thought I should clear a path to the mailbox at the end of the long driveway, just to do something nice for my aunt. And that's when I saw it. A single boot print, deep in the snow, and right at the edge of the trees. It was pointed toward the house. I stopped the snowblower and stared. I couldn't understand where it came from. I thought maybe a hunter, but remembered hunting season was over. Maybe it was a neighbor checking on me, but I am sure they would have knocked the door. I walked a bit closer. The boot print was huge, and there was just one. I couldn't see any trail leading to it or away from it. There was just one perfect boot print, as if someone had just appeared right there, taken one step out of the trees, and then stopped. I looked into the woods but couldn't see anything moving. Though it's probably just a kid messing around, I didn't really believe it. But I also didn't want to be the guy who gets creeped out by a footprint in the snow. I went back to clearing the path, but I kept looking over my shoulder. I finished, went inside, and tried to forget about it. But all day I kept thinking about that single print. When the sun started to set, I kept looking out of the blinds every few minutes. I checked all of the doors twice. Bear was restless. He kept looking out of the front window, grumbling and staring into the dark. I told him, "It's just a deer, buddy." I think I was trying to convince us both. I went to bed around 1 a.m. My room looked out over the backyard and the woods. There is a motion sensor floodlight out there, but it was off. I was just nodding off when I heard a loud clunk. It was a heavy, metallic sound coming from the garage. My heart was pounding and I stayed still, trying to listen, but I didn't hear anything. I thought the wind must have knocked something over. I listened for 5 whole minutes, but there was only silence. I must have fallen back asleep, because the next thing I remember, I was woken up by the backyard floodlight coming on. I got up quickly and saw Bear was at the bedroom window. He was barking, but it wasn't his usual "I see a squirrel" bark. It was a panicked bark, as if he felt a threat. I rushed out of bed and went to the window, but I didn't see anything outside. "Bear, quiet." "It's nothing," I whispered, but my voice was shaky. He ignored me and kept barking. I was about to drag him away when I saw it. A line of footprints. They came out of the far corner of the yard and stopped directly under the motion sensor light. And then the footprints went back the same way. Someone had walked out, stopped under the light, then walked back, making sure they didn't leave any extra footprints, like they knew exactly what they were doing. I realized this wasn't a lost hiker or a kid. This was someone who knew how to hide. Someone who knew how motion sensors worked and didn't want to be found. I grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. It was 3:17 a.m. I should have called 911 right then, but I wasn't sure what I would say. "Officer, there are footprints in my yard?" I could already imagine their reaction because I lived in a low-crime area. I felt embarrassed just thinking about it and decided I'd call if anything else happened. That was a big mistake. I turned off the bedroom light so I could see outside better. I stood there with Bear and we kept watching for about 20 minutes, but nothing happened. The floodlight had clicked off and the yard was dark. My eyes strained to see, and then there was some movement. I saw a figure step out from the trees, but not at the edge of the yard. It was much closer, from the side of the house. He must have stayed hidden and walked around outside the sensor's range. He was tall, wearing a dark coat and a hat pulled low. I couldn't see his face. He didn't walk toward the house or try the back door. He just stood there, halfway between the house and the woods, and turned his head slowly towards me. I froze. The room was so dark that he couldn't possibly see me, but he stood there for so long looking up at the window. Then he took a slow step forward, as if he had all the time in the world. I looked for my phone, and this time I didn't care about sounding silly. I called 911 right then, telling the dispatcher, "There's a man in my yard. He's been out there. He's coming toward the house. Please send someone, please." As I gave the address, I crawled back to the window. The yard was empty. He had vanished. But he hadn't gone back toward the woods. The only way out was along the side of the house, towards the front door or the garage door. The dispatcher said someone would be there in 15 minutes. I heard a different sound. This time it was from inside the house, in the kitchen. Bear had run to the bedroom door and was growling. I started thinking, is he in the house now? I couldn't move. I didn't know if I should lock the bedroom door or try to get out of the window. But the window was a 20-foot drop into the deep snow, and I'd probably break a leg. I heard another sound, as if someone was brushing against the kitchen counter. I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed, "I've called the police. They're here." There was silence. And then I heard footsteps. I saw a shadow pass the crack under my bedroom door. A second later, the front door slammed open, hitting the wall. I waited, holding a trophy from my uncle's shelf as a weapon. I heard my truck's engine and the sound of tires spinning in the snow, then speeding down the road. The police found my truck abandoned in a ditch 3 miles away, out of gas. The snowblower and a toolkit were missing from the garage. The deputy said it was probably a burglar, surprised by me being home. He said I did the right thing by shouting, but he didn't see the footprints or the way that man stood in the yard. Looking up, they never found him. The official report says attempted burglary. I know it was something else. He wasn't there for the TV. He was in the garage for hours before he even came to the back door. He stood in the light on purpose. He was watching me, waiting to see if I was alone and what I would do. I house sat for the rest of the 2 weeks. The police drove by more often, but nothing else happened. But every night, I'd wake up at 3:17 a.m. and look at the backyard. It's been a year, and I still do. Because what haunts me more than anything, more than the footprints or the face at the window, is the question I can't answer. What was he planning to do during all that quiet, patient time before I finally saw him?